The following video will be about the Myers-Briggs type indicator and various initialisms people use on the internet like INFJ. And I'm going to just read some of the data from YouTube videos to give you a sample of what this might be. And I'll try and include as many as the alphabet soup statements as I can in the title, so that if you were looking for it, you'll find this video. Now, warning, I don't agree with people determinism. You'll see in a minute. Let's move on. When looking up INFJ, signs you're the rarest personality type in the world. Okay. That's a giant red flag. 8 signs you're this, the world's rarest personality type, 5 years ago. These are the most popular videos because it uses that expression. It's like people, for a while, doing that little image test on a computer screen that has a limit of, 12-bit to 24-bit, saying you can see colors that you can't normally see. I have actually done an experimental test to see if I could detect ultraviolet and infrared light, and at one time I could because I had an eye defect, and oddly enough, most likely I had an infection that damaged my eye, and then it cleared up later. But for a short period of time, I could detect both ultraviolet and infrared because there was something wrong with my eyes. But that's not you're special. That's you need to go to a damned hospital. Let's move on. And yes, I can technically, all the special things I thought were really cool but are bad, I can technically digest, even today, some wood material. That just means my body will make the type of alcohol that kills you, wood alcohol, because my gut contains, unfortunately, the ability to break down wood material and basically turn it into poison. The rarest personality, again, 5 years ago, and this is ranging from 12 million to now, at that point, 2.4 million. Rarest personality type, again, 2.3 million. The perfect couple are these two, and it shows the meme of one person yelling at another person, and the other person's actually a cat. What relationship should you have? Lots of people memeing it. A couple of YouTube channels are exclusively about that subject. I'm not going to name them. If you type in any of these initialisms, you will find YouTube channels telling you what you want to hear. And I'm just going to bring up the obvious answer here. And everybody out there that's a rationalist or a debunker or fact-based or whatever we like to self-proclaim when we're at least not making mistakes that week. The rest of the time we're just as stupid as anybody else. But it is stupidity versus not stupidity, right? But anyway, all of us self-imported actuallys on the internet that point out when you're wrong and we're totally not wrong. I'll just use the word you already knew. I was going to bring up. It's coming. Astrology. So what is this stuff? These are self-diagnosed statements about a person saying, I don't need to go get tested. Or even if you get tested, it's going to be something where they emphasize certain characteristics they detect in you in a short period of time. It's not a personality test. And yes, some of you went through, this sounds really familiar, a lot of you went through a job interview doing one of these things. I learned how to fake my way through these just the same as I can fake my way through a lie detector test, which is the conventional term for it. Yes, you can actually do that, because if you're not aware of it, I did this experiment to prove that it can be done. And yes, at one time I could lower my heart rate and blood pressure at will and raise it, because I hooked myself up to the equipment to monitor just the individual things I needed to do that would make it to where I can make a much more intense reaction to a completely nominal thing. And then anything that I might be lying about, I would just keep myself calm and it wouldn't show up as intense. That's how the lie detector test works. But let's go back to astrology. No, your birth date doesn't determine jack shit about you. Yes, some of you are absolutely cult members that believe this. It doesn't. There's another set of videos that show up if you type in the initialism INFJ, where you find people saying, oh, well, you have predator face or rat face, or so it's a personality type determined by looking at your face. Starting to get a little uncomfortable with this crap? Well, the truth is uncomfortable. No, bullshit's uncomfortable. You cannot tell anything about a person by looking at them, finding out their birth date, or 100 other characteristics, or giving them a really short interview because you work for an organization that maintains something. So let's look at that. The Myers-Briggs Type Indicators is named after the two individuals who created this because they were, you could say, they're too lazy to do Jung, excuse me. And as in the Wikipedia article here, which has been heavy hit by rationalists, us spoil sports because we're special, perceived accuracy of the test relies on confirmation bias, flattery, etc. And the Center for Applications of Psychological Type, an organization run by the Myers-Briggs Foundation itself that wants to maintain this mythology, might be a conflict of interest. It doesn't have any predictive or practical outcome. It doesn't warn you of something up ahead, so it has no diagnostic characteristics that would help in the prevention of problems. And it's almost exclusively based on people self-identifying. Now, there are things you could self-identify as, like I can realize that I don't fit in with people because I have very different interests, so that just means I have different interests. Or I might say I have a very different way of perceiving the world because it ends up I'm nearsighted. That's an example of something where your way of viewing the world and viewing yourself can actually indicate there's something going on that's a real world, organic, physical thing. And yes, I'm going to throw this in so that some of you can get very angry and some of you can, throw me a bone if you're angry already. Yes, a person who self-identifies as not being whatever gender or sex or whatever wording you want to use to avoid the subject matter, they're just not quite fitting in. That's only something they're going to really know. Yeah. But just like this, that doesn't mean that the rest of the world's going to perceive it. Yeah. And does that matter? Let's do this real quick. Having 16 pigeonholes to fit into might seem freeing, but it's an extraordinarily small cage to be trapped in. Because there's 3 dimensions to reality, and this looks more like if you made these 3 dimensions here, you'd be a 2x2 box here, right? No, it'd be smaller, bigger, it'd be bigger, wouldn't it? Right? Okay. But is that enough room for you to find your real place? Okay, here's the messy reality. With a very few things, you'd think we would have just A or B, or maybe just 4 combinations. We don't. Even whether or not you're completely male or completely female is dependent on enough variables that it would be referred to as a variable. It's not just a couple of dozen things either. And yeah, that means that you would have, if you treat it as binary, over 1 million combinations, and only a tiny portion of them are going to be A or B, male or female, Republican, Democrat. We're all blend. It's not a spectrum. It's a smear on the road. We're the road apple on reality. And very often what we do is we just decide eventually to just give ourselves a break and decide to fit in wherever we need to and become as dynamic as we can. Having a personality type essentially cookie cuttered over the top of you is not beneficial to most people. I mean, if it's a starting point, great, but take it with a grain of salt. Is this a giant scam? I'm not saying so, but this has all of the earmarks of the same sort of thing. And yes, I'm going to say astrology again and piss people off, as well as engrams if you're a person who's into the Church of Scientology or just a free zoner. And the body language people, let's get you guys thrown into the bus too. No, you don't have the ability to predict anything because some of us got trained to defeat your witchy ways of figuring us out, because we just walk right past you because the U.S. government hires people who are supposed to be able to figure this out, and they get defeated all the time because people just learn to act and fit in. There are people who are extremely good mimics. That's all there is to it. You just have to mimic everybody else around you, and you'll blend in, and it works. It's a stupid, dumb method. And if you just don't think about it too much, you can do it too. And that's for every part of life. People can mask whatever they are because that's what all of us do a little bit and get by. That means these experts who say, oh, I can identify somebody at 50 feet as being XYZ. No, they can't. Why? Because they will run into someone they can't test for, and then they'll start making excuses. You weren't foolproof. You're not intuitive. I have to tell people that all the time. People who believe that they have a one-upsmanship thing on the rest of reality because they can't be fooled. Every one of us is an easily fooled little animal that, runs after the shiny, and that's it. We're all gullible. We're all messy. We're humans. And people who claim to have an expertise in this absolutely are either laughable or terrifying because people take them seriously. I want to bring up a while ago that people used an actual dowsing rod with clips of plastic that they would put in that were supposed to find drugs and whatever. And these are still used. These were still used and may even still be used. They're hokum. They're bullshit. They're used as a joke, almost. But they're also used as a way to fake having probable cause to search your car in a country where they're walking around with machine guns with the safeties off. Okay? Our need to go beyond the veil makes us see shit that isn't there and makes us do things that we shouldn't do, including being gullible and maybe being taken in or wasting maybe a decade of your life trying to adapt to something or fit into, being an intelligent thing going into the puddle and finding out the one you fit in and finding out that, the square one goes through the round hole too because the holes were done the wrong size. A personality type isn't something you should decide that you're going to mold yourself to fit because obviously some are supposed to be better than the others. Just some advice. So if you were looking these things up, I'm going to give you a bit of advice, and it'll be in the title. I advise you to simply stop doing this. Look the stuff up like you would playing with a Ouija board, understanding that the Ouija board was never anything other than a toy. It's not a work of the occult. Literally everybody saying the opposite is full of shit. Just say so to their face and then stop talking to them about it. Say drop the subject or you're obsessed. Because you can look up the history of this and find out that they're wrong. And that's the big problem here. You can look up the fact that this thing has a definitive history. It was created by two people. What was their basis for it? The original research they did, where did it come from? Do you tolerate that a lot in the society where we just make shit up and run with it? Well, sometimes that works. I mean, just, hey, let's build a big kite and put a motor on it. Yeah, that's how the Wright brothers started. It's basically that, except that they were bicycle mechanics. That worked out. How about all the other things that never did? Okay, when you have the basis for something coming from just two people, you need to learn about that. It's like learning about the basis for where sovereign citizen meme and the movement and the internet and it's bullshit. It was a way of avoiding having a court case go through in a speedy trial mode so that you could try to get the court to throw it out. That's what it came from. It has never had a basis in anything it says it's based on. It's baffle them with bullshit and keep it delayed until you say, well, we have a problem. You've listened to all my motions that I made up out of my ass, and we have a right to speedy trial. And then eventually the court system caught on to it and said, no, you can have unlimited time. You just have to have your client left in a jail cell. So you can effectively go to prison for life, or you can actually argue the case like a grown-up. By the way, we're soaking in a world filled with people who argumentum ad nauseum now. So, anyway, I'm making this as a very mild example because I've seen this personality test stuff used as a way to exclude people from working in a location because all they were looking for were people who wouldn't start a union. That was what it was based on. It had nothing to do with your personality type. It's not a personality test. It's a make sure that they don't unionize test. Don't ever forget that. That's where this really came from as far as your business that might have done it. Oh, it's based on this Myers-Briggs or Briggs-Meyer, blah, blah. No, it's just a way of trying to suss out whoever might be a troublemaker to get rid of them before they get the job. Doesn't matter if they're qualified. Never did. It matters whether or not you're going to just obey orders. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. Don't be taken in by false realities, please.